Hey there. So you're thinking about an incident response retainer, right? It can feel complicated, but don't worry. In this explainer, we're going to give you a super simple 7-question framework to figure out if it's actually the right move for your organization. Let's dive right in.
Okay, so let's start with this quote because it really hits home. At 2:07 in the morning, all those fancy security plans, they get very real, very fast. This isn't about some abstract strategy session. This is about what happens when everything's on fire in the middle of the night. It's about making those smart, clear-headed decisions before the crisis ever hits, so you already know who's awake, who has the authority to make the call, and who can actually, stop the bleeding.
All right, first things first. Before we jump into those 7 big questions, we need to get crystal clear on what a retainer is really for. What problems does it actually solve? And, maybe even more importantly, what problems does it not solve?
So the number one value of a retainer isn't about preventing attacks. That's a different game. It's all about this idea right here, time compression. Think of it like this. You're shrinking the chaos. It's about getting the absolute right experts asking the absolute right questions, like immediately, instead of wasting precious hours and a ton of money just scrambling to figure out who to even call.
But, that speed comes with some fine prints. Of course it does. Most retainers are going to cover the basics you see over here on the left: triage, containment, forensics. But the real surprises, they're always hiding in the exclusions on the right. Things like insane after-hours cost multipliers or needing specialty analysis that's not included. So the bottom line is this: you have to read these contracts like you're reading a weather forecast, because the storm's real path is always hidden in the details.
And this right here, this just perfectly illustrates a really hard truth. The return on investment for any retainer is directly tied to how prepared you are internally. I mean, think about it. A premium retainer for an unprepared organization, it's literally like calling a Formula One race crew to a car that has no wheels. If your logs are a mess and your on-call lists are years out of date, even the best vendor on the planet can only do so much. They'll help, for sure, but physics always wins. Your prep work is what determines how effective they can be.
Okay, so with that foundation in place, let's get to the real heart of this explainer. We are going to walk through the 7 strategic questions that will give you your answer. This is your strategic test.
So here's the full roadmap, all 7 questions. Now for this explainer, we're going to dive deep into what I think are the 3 most pivotal ones: the cost of downtime, whether you're buying extra hands or expert judgment, and what external pressures you're facing. But really, all 7 are absolutely crucial for your final decision.
All right, question 1. Let's make this real. Forget about abstract risk for a second. The very first question you need to answer is a financial one. What is the actual, tangible, dollars and cents cost to your business if you are completely down for one full day?
And look, you don't need some super complex financial model to figure this out. Just look at this simple formula. You take your direct revenue loss, add in the cost of all that operational disruption, idle teams, paying overtime, and you multiply that by the number of hours the impact is going to be really severe. That simple number, that's your first day exposure. Now compare that figure against the annual cost of a retainer. Suddenly the decision starts to get a whole lot clearer, doesn't it?
Okay, now for something a little more strategic. Question 5. When you go to hire a vendor, what are you actually buying? Is it just extra hands on deck and some specialized skills, or are you expecting them to make critical business decisions for you in the heat of the moment?
This slide really breaks it down nicely. Buying surge capacity means you've got internal leaders who own the decisions, and you just need the vendor's specialist horsepower to get things done. On the other hand, outsourcing judgment means you want them to make the tough business trade-offs. And the crucial point here, really, is that keeping those decision rights in-house is almost always healthier and way more cost-effective in the long run.
All right, the third key area to look at is external pressure. Because let's be honest, sometimes the decision is basically made for you. As you can see here, your big customer contracts, your cyber insurance policy, or even regulatory bodies like the SEC. They can all have really specific requirements for incident response readiness. These kinds of external obligations can quickly turn a retainer from a nice-to-have into a completely defensible, must-have governance requirement.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about how to avoid making some really expensive mistakes. Think of this as the insider advice that helps you procure smartly, not just quickly. So here they are, the 3 most common pitfalls we see. First, choosing a vendor based on their fancy logo instead of how well they actually fit your specific operational needs. Second, totally ignoring those exclusions and overtime terms we talked about earlier. That'll get you. And probably most importantly, thinking the retainer is some kind of substitute for your own internal leadership. Let me be clear, no vendor, no matter how good, can ever replace accountable leaders who own the incident.
So how do you put all this together and actually make a decision? Well, let's get to the final, actionable part of our explainer, a quick sprint designed to get you to a clear verdict.
The process is super simple. Just go through those 7 questions we outlined and score your organization from 1 to 5 on each one. And as this table shows, your total score gives you a really clear action plan. If you score low, 7 to 14, focus on your internal basics first. A middle score, that suggests a minimal retainer is probably a good fit. And if you score high, well, a full retainer is likely your best move.
So, this is it, the final crucial point. The goal here isn't to predict every single fire, it's to avoid the nightmare scenario of trying to negotiate with the fire department while smoke is literally filling the hallway. So use this framework. Get your key stakeholders in a room and make an informed decision before you need to. The only question left is, when are you scheduling your 30-minute sprint?